Welcome to the Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by X2 Comedy. If you're looking to get more out of your Shenandoah Valley experience, then this is the podcast for you. You'll meet interesting people, musicians, and comedians that perform here and find out more about what you can do and see. Whether you live here or plan to visit, listen to explore what makes our unique slice of heaven. Now here's your host, Don Davis Womack.
Hello, Laughers. Join us as we unravel the story behind Pink Ambition Pole Fitness and gain insights into how it's redefining the way we perceive fitness and self-discovery. In today's episode, we have the pleasure of speaking with Karen McIntyre, the visionary force behind Pink Ambition Pole Fitness. With a commitment to empowering individuals through physical expression and fitness, Karen has carved out a unique space for herself in the fitness industry. Her journey from a dancer to a business owner is a testament to the power of pursuing one's dreams and defying conventions. Pink Ambition Pole Fitness isn't just a fitness studio, it's a sanctuary for self-discovery and self-expression. Founded by Karen McIntyre, this innovative fitness haven is breaking down stereotypes and helping individuals tap into their inner strength. Through pole dancing and various fitness programs, Pink Ambition fosters a supportive community that encourages personal growth, confidence building, and a celebration of diverse body types. With a diverse range of classes, workshops, and events, Pink Ambition Pole Fitness is redefining fitness and empowering people to embrace their bodies in a whole new way. Welcome to the show, Karen. It's great to have you on today.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to join you.
This is amazing. It's so great to be here because we just ran into each other just last week at a networking event. And now the next week, right now, today, we are recording this podcast inside your studio in the heart of downtown Harrisonburg. We're making it happen. What do you think about that?
We are. That's what I do.
That is what you do. I have so many questions. I'm getting prepared for this interview that I'm really excited to see what you have to share with our laughers and about this whole pole fitness industry and what you've created as an opportunity for people to explore it and advance in it if they want to here in your studio. So first, I'd like to ask you, can you share the inspiration behind starting Pink Ambition Pole Fitness and how your personal journey led to its creation?
Okay, so I started pole back in 2007. So I've been doing it for about 15 years, I think. And I got into it randomly as from a friend's mom who saw an ad for a exotic striptease workshop. She wanted to do it, but she didn't want to do it alone. So we went with her. And at the end of that workshop, which was super fun, the instructor was like, "Oh, we also have pole classes at our studio." And I was like, "Wait, what? What is this? I need to know more." So I signed up for my first 8-week session at that studio, and before I was done with the 8 weeks, I had a pole in my house.
Wow, you took to it right away.
It was love at first spin.
Hey, laughers, Tisha here. You know what goes great with this podcast? Free Popsters Gourmet Popcorn. We're so excited to sponsor this podcast, highlighting some of the most wonderful people in the Shenandoah Valley. To show our love for you laughers, we're giving you 15% off today at prepopsters.com. That's prepopsterous.com. Use promo code LAUGH15.
So that's how I got into pole. And then I ended up teaching starting in 2009. And I taught for about 6 years at a studio called Inner Goddess Studio here in Harrisonburg. And then that studio closed its doors in 2014. And all of my students were panicking and, oh, what are we going to do? Where are we going to pole? And I also was slightly panicking because where was I going to teach pole? Because as much as I love pole, teaching it is my passion. And so someone suggested that I open a studio, and I laughed. And then I was like, oh, well, maybe I could. And that's how Pink Ambition came about. So I opened it to provide a space for myself to be able to continue my passion and teach others pole, and also to give a space for my students that were already hooked and wanted to continue their journey, but that did not have the space to do so.
That's very inspirational. And I'm also curious, what happened to your mom's friend? Did she continue taking classes, or did that was a one and done for her?
Yeah, she did a one and done.
Okay.
But there was 4 of us that went with her, and all 4 of us took the pole class in the beginning, and we actually went for about a year or 2. And it was in Charlottesville is where the studio was. So we would drive to Charlottesville every week for pole class.
That must have been really a lot of fun.
Oh, it was. It was a blast.
And do you still have friends from that experience today?
I do.
Okay.
I'm not super close with them at this point, but it's always one of those things where when we get together, it's like, oh, we started pole together. Like it's just a little connection.
That's right. Heartwarming connection. Pole fitness is quite distinctive from traditional fitness approaches. What motivated you to choose the pole dancing to empower individuals? I heard in a previous answer what had motivated you to do it personally. Mm-hmm. Then the inspiration to help people continue their journey in it. But you do have the aspect of empowering individuals. So what motivated you to choose pole dancing to do that?
I would say that I was going to say that was an accident, but it wasn't. Like, of course I want to empower people, but I did not realize just how empowering pole can be until I had a studio and I started to see the students' response to pole and the response to classes and our community. And it really does make you feel like you're the top dog. Like you this, you can do something that most people wouldn't even think of. And knowing that just puts a little kick in your step a little bit. It gains your confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. She's thinking if she wants to add anything to it.
So, yeah, it's empowering it's like the healing properties of pole as well. You don't force them. It just happens.
The healing properties of pole. What do you mean by that?
Well, just like empowering, it is very healing. And like I said, do not force it. It is not necessary. What I mean by that is if you are dealing with trauma in your life, pole gives you a place to get away from that for a minute. It gives you a place to look at yourself outside of that. And it's also giving you new things to do with your body and new things to accomplish. And so as you're accomplishing these things, your confidence gains more and more. And typically you heal from that trauma because your focus changes and you stop focusing on the negative aspects of the trauma and you embrace the outlet that pole gives you. Like, pole is very emotional.
Okay.
It's mental, emotional, and physical. And the emotional aspect, like I said, just comes out of nowhere. Like, you don't realize, people don't go into it and be like, I'm going to get super emotional and I'm going to pole dance. People do pole and then they realize afterwards, oh, that took a lot out of me. Or like when you go to a performance. Mm-hmm. A performance is that poler essentially putting their soul on the stage for you.
You're talking about a pole performance.
Yes, excuse me, a pole performance.
Okay.
So that alone, being able to share that aspect of yourself when something in your past has told you that you are not worthy of it, or that was my particular trauma. It gives it changes that viewpoint
Of yourself.
of yourself. Yes, that's what I'm trying to get at. It changes your viewpoint of yourself, and it makes you realize that that's what matters, not what everybody else thinks. What you think, how you feel, how pole is affecting you, that's what matters. It doesn't matter if someone, Susie Q down the road, is saying that it's, I don't know, not good for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. Susie Q can think that. I'm cool with that. And pole has given me that ability to set aside the need for approval from outside sources.
To get the approval inside yourself. So I think it would be safe to say, this is a more common phrase being used lately, especially in therapy and elsewhere, self-love.
Yes.
So you would say, I think safe to say this increases your self-love.
100%.
And self-acceptance.
Yes.
Wow.
Especially if your particular trauma is dealing with acceptance of yourself or your body, especially your body. Because if you have body dysmorphia, which essentially means that you do not see your body for what it physically is in your mind, you see it as what you're terrified of. So in my case, I have had an eating disorder most of my life, and so I hated myself because I hated my body. And the only way I could look at it was the way it looked. And I also grew up, I was a very petite person, and I'm also mixed race, so I have, different, more of an exotic appearance, or as my friend puts it,
Yes. Ambiguous.
Ambiguously, yes.
That's it.
Yes. Ethnically ambiguous is what she says. Yes.
I've been told that about myself too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for me, pole made me look at my body as far as what it was doing and what it could do for me rather than what it looked like to someone else. So I no longer judged myself on the appearance. Not to say I judged myself, but I looked at myself based on, or I evaluated my body based on what it could do and its physical capabilities as opposed to what it looked like.
Now, you got me curious now. When you look back at pictures of yourself, and this is more curiosity about the body dysmorphia that you speak of. So now that you've grown and done this, and you've been doing it 17 years, I think, total, you said.
Something about that.
Right. And so when you go back and look at pictures of yourself when you first started pole dance, do you see your body differently then than you did at that time?
Absolutely. At that time, I thought I was fat. I look at it now and I'm like, oh, I was very not in a good, healthy place. Like, I was way too skinny. I had my personal eating disorder was restriction, so I would simply not eat. So I lost a lot of weight and muscle, and that's the other way that pole helped me essentially with the eating disorder is in order to continue to do pole, I had to feed my body.
To have the strength to be able to do the moves.
So it became a thing of this activity is really helping me mentally and I want to keep doing it, But my doctors are telling me, you gotta fuel the body that is letting you do this. And so it was a struggle of trying to keep taking in the food that you need. But pole gave me motivation, I guess. Another reason rather than just to live, which sounds ridiculous when I say it like that, but that's essentially how it felt back then. Some people say that you live to eat.
Yeah.
I ate to live. The only reason I ate was because I knew I wouldn't be alive if I stopped.
Right.
So being able to continue the activity that made me feel good about myself also made me face part of my demons as far as the eating disorder goes, but it gave me that reward because I was able to do my pole. So pole essentially became a reward at one point during my journey because I was not eating, and literally the only reason I ate was so that I could do pole because my doctors wouldn't let me if I didn't.
Yeah. So that was a big change for you in your life.
Yeah.
And thanks for being vulnerable to share that.
Absolutely.
I'm sure there may be a laugher or two or some laughers that know people that are struggling with eating restrictively or body dysmorphia. And this may be something they'd be interested in pursuing to help themselves heal.
I hope so.
Yeah. And I think that's a great segue into my next question for you, in that creating a welcoming and inclusive environment is evident in your studio's philosophy. How do you ensure that Pink Ambition remains a safe space for people from all walks of life?
I think that's done by example. I have a staff that is very caring and also feels very strongly on that. That we need to promote inclusivity and diversity and just pure love. And so myself, I demonstrate that. My staff demonstrates that. And the students see that, and so they respond in the same way. If there's ever an issue where that comes into, or that is questioned or challenged, I guess I should say, then that person will be asked to leave. I am not afraid to ask someone to no longer inhabit my space if they are being toxic to that space. So it's knowing how to demonstrate and live by example to just love everyone and accept everyone. And that's what you get back. And the other thing is I don't let them be mean to themselves, which I think is a big part of that now that I'm processing as I'm talking now. But if you are mean to yourself, like, for example, I tell you to do this fireman spin, which is taking both feet off the ground, and your brain is like, you can't do that. What are you thinking? How do you think this is? Right. Everybody's brain does this.
It's like, wait, what are you talking about?
Exactly. So I will not allow people to be mean to themselves or each other. So it's not just, you can't say something mean to your friend that's at the next pole. It's, you can't say something mean to yourself. So if you are forced to accept yourself and say positive things, or at least recognize positive things about yourself, it puts you in a much better place to share that love and share that acceptance with others. Because if you don't accept yourself, how can you accept anyone else?
So what are some examples of just to get our head wrapped around with what you mean by being mean to yourself, what are some things that are common that you hear when you kind of step in and say, hey, you hear somebody being mean to themselves, first of all, what's some examples that are popular for that? And then what is your exact approach? How do you go to that person and reframe what they just said about themselves?
So I feel very strongly about this, mostly because of my eating disorder history. And eating disorders there's a voice. There is a voice in your head that is constantly telling you horrible things about yourself, which is why you end up hating yourself. So I know that voice is there, and I know that voice is dangerous. So I can see in my students' heads when that voice is talking to them. And it doesn't have to be out loud. I can see. I'll walk over to them and be like, your brain just told you can't do this, didn't it? And they'll be like, yeah. I'm like, don't listen to it. It doesn't know anything. So I identify the fact that their brain doesn't believe in their abilities, or that voice, which is your brain essentially. And by recognizing that, and that then you can take a step and say, okay, well, I'm not going to let it do that, because that's not nice. You wouldn't say that to me. Like, so I tell you to pick both feet up off the floor, and your brain says, you cannot do that. You are not strong enough. You are too fat. You cannot lift your leg above 2 inches. When in reality, if you listen to the instruction and complete the move correctly with not motivation, with centrifugal force and momentum, that's the word I was looking for, momentum, you can absolutely do it. And so I try to stop that brain, because I know how dangerous it was for me, and I can see it coming out in others, and I will not let that pass without me at least acknowledging, hey, your brain's telling you lies. You need to be aware. And I'm happy to go into my personal fix for that, but I'm also not a therapist, so
quantifying for you,
right.
laughers.
I can
from personal experience.
Yes,
her advice is.
And when I do go to students, I am not taking on the role of therapist. I am saying, hey, I've been there. This is where I was. It looks like you're going through the same thing. This is what helped me. And that plays into the healing, because once you recognize that you're telling yourself things that are lies, and you stop listening to that, suddenly you're a lot more capable than you thought before, because before your brain was telling you all these things you can't do.
Limiting you.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And we are bigger than our thoughts. I have learned that in my own therapy journey, and not all our thoughts are true or accurate. Mm-hmm. I've learned that also. I've learned that our brain tends to fall to the negative as a default. Yep. And the reason that it does that is its way of protecting us from what it feels like is danger.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have a rule at my studio that the word can't is not allowed unless you follow it with the word yet. Because it is very valid that today you may not be able to do that thing. But if you keep at it and you work on it and you practice, one day you will get it. So I'll accept you saying, I can't do that yet. But I will not accept you saying, I can't do that.
That's a good word, Karen. I really like that. It's really powerful. You can't yet. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take that as a personal note for myself as inspiration. I really like that a lot. Many people, when it comes to pole fitness, might have a preconceived notion of what it is.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you've ran into this.
Just a couple times.
So I'm curious, how do you address misconceptions and educate others about the true essence of your programs?
So pole, first we have to discuss the fact that there are so many facets to pole. There are so many styles and so many ways of approaching pole itself. So the typical stereotype that most people think of are strippers or
That makes
dancers
sense, yeah.
that are in the club setting. And a lot of people have personal feelings about that. And so those personal feelings end up transitioning onto pole when it's not the pole they don't like. It's how they personally feel about that job. And that's what it is, a job. So when you look at strippers, they need to be respected 100% because they are human beings just like us. They just have a job that you potentially don't like. So even if I would not like to be a trash man, but I respect them. I would not want to be I used to pick up dog poop. I was at a doggy daycare. That was not fun. But I still respect those that do it. So I found that this whole, the feeling about pole was coming from not understanding that it's just another thing. And if you like it, that's awesome. If you don't, that's fine. So anytime, countless times, people will say to me something about, oh, well, they're just a stripper. There is no just about it. I have never done it professionally, but let me tell you, from teaching pole for 5-6 hours a day, that is a lot on my body. These dancers are going 10, 12-hour shifts in 9, 10-inch heels, not stopping. Not only are their bodies not stopping, but their brains, their emotions can't stop because they're continuously trying to connect to their clients. So it's a ridiculously hard job. And I feel that people look at it and say, oh, they're not doing anything except shaking their butt. That's definitely not just what they're doing. So I get a little emotional about that because it really hurts me that you would judge an entire type or an entire workforce simply because you don't like that job. And I think that's part of the problem. People don't see it as a job. That's all it is.
I hear that. And also, I think the fear is part of the reality of that job. And
The fear of what?
for example, oh, my husband's going to be at this place, which in a lot of marriages, there's the agreement that they're not going to go outside the marriage. I'm not talking about the marriages that are polyamorous or
Right.
have made the agreement that that is fine. I'm talking about the spouses sitting at home that choice has not been discussed, and it feels like betrayal.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that is very valid.
So I think that's part of what is attached to people's emotions about that
that makes sense.
job. Yeah.
I do suggest, however, that you discuss everything
Yes.
with your spouse that
Yes.
is related to
Yes. I know you're not saying that.
to getting along in life.
Yes.
But yes, you are correct. It is not a comfortable position for a significant other. But again, it's just a job. they're looking at it as an emotional connection. But to the dancer, it's just a job.
Yeah. There's such complexity. Complexity is what the word that
absolutely.
I was thinking of. But yes, that's, I think, where the misconceptions originate, or some of them, maybe not all of them, but some of them come from.
So I always encourage people to respect those dancers that work in clubs, and I also encourage them to respect all other forms of pole, which include art, comedy, lyrical. You've got, Russian exotic is now a big thing, and it's a very,
I didn't know that.
Yes, it's
it's
a stylistic way of doing exotic, and it's very hard and aggressive and fast. It's not my style at all, personally. I'm a very slow mover, but I call myself the pole sloth. But if you like to move fast, it's really fun. So you can do anything with pole. Pole can be anything. It can be whatever it needs to be for you.
Yeah. And I think what you are also trying to say is this is not a strip joint here.
No.
And this is more about using the pole as a tool.
Yes.
To express yourself. And if you choose also to get fit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It can be used that way as well, in a different kind of way, and tuning into your own sexy.
Yep.
Which can be very beneficial to relationships.
Absolutely. Yep.
So there's that too. In your bio on your website, it mentions your love for coaching interested students throughout the whole quote, competition, end quote, process. And that gave me a aha moment because I didn't realize there were competitions for pole fitness, nor that you have completed, placed, and won competitions yourself. Can you speak and educate us about these experiences?
Sure. So competition is another facet of pole. And a lot of people are not aware that it exists. Pole, let me see if I can remember the exact. It was like a couple of years ago, pole was officially recognized as a sport by, I'm forgetting the organization. But so competition is an individual competition, meaning you individually compete against other people. But we at Pink Ambition strive to make the competition process more of a team atmosphere, because everything is better when you can support each other and when you're going through it together. So we do a lot of our competition prep. We do together with all the competitors and just help them get ready for that competition. So competition it varies as well, because you've got in the competition area that we particularly participate is the pole sport organization, and they have 5 different levels. So you can go all the way from level 1, where you don't go upside down at all and you only use one pole. It's your choice if it's static or spinning. And then up through the other 4 levels, the higher in level you go, the longer the time period, and the more difficult the moves can get. So anyone at any stage of their journey is able to compete, which is why I like this organization, because I want someone that's only been doing it a month to be able to get on that stage if that's what they want. And then they also have categories. So there's championship, which is your typical like technical aspect of pole and doing it technically correct. And then there's dramatic, which is bringing out a sad or somber emotion from your audience. And then there's entertainment, which is making them laugh. Like,
really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I thought you said that earlier.
Yep. There's pole comedy.
Okay.
Yep.
This is very interesting.
I'll have to show you a video.
You're going to have to
later
show
on.
me a video. I registered that and I thought, wait a minute. Let me process that.
Yep.
Okay.
So pole can be anything.
Interesting.
And in this organization, the judging criteria is also dependent on the category. So in championship, you're going to be judged on pointed feet and lines and no micro bends and such of like that. Whereas in dramatic, for example, you're going to be judged more on musicality and how you're relating your movements to the song and how you're interacting with the audience rather than the technical aspects of the performance. So there's you can compete in anything, and it is the most unique competition I've ever experienced because there is zero like catty competition.
That's good. You mean people are very supportive
Yes.
among the levels and just in general, whether you place or not, is what
Yep.
you're saying.
Absolutely.
Okay.
For example, I have a backstage bestie because we met at Pole Comp backstage several years ago, and we were competing against each other, and we have competed against each other almost every year. And every year we look forward to seeing each other and hanging out backstage and cheering each other on. And like this past year, I recorded her from like the backstage and she recorded me, and like it, so it's a reunion. And you are so excited about someone being able to do what they're doing in pole that you don't really care that it might mean that you don't get that prize, if that makes sense. Like we all just want to pole dance. That's pretty much it. My husband, after his first experience going to competition, I asked him what he thought, and his response was, well, I honestly couldn't tell who you've known for years and who you just like their outfit. And I was like, absolutely, because I treat everyone the same. If I know you and I haven't seen you in 2 years, I'm going to run up and give you a hug. If I don't know you and I love your outfit, I'm not going to hug you without permission because I like consent. But I am going to come up and be like, oh my God, that outfit's amazing. Like, where did you get it? And then if we continue to talk, I always open with, I'm a big hugger. Do you like to hug? And so then, whatever they say, of course. But that's like pole. It's, I do this and you do it and it's really cool. So let's do it together. And it doesn't matter who wins. If that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense. I'm curious about two things in your answer. One, you mentioned there's a time difference between the levels. Can you give me some indication? How long would they be on stage at level 1 versus level 4?
So level 1, I believe, is 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay.
Level 2 is 3 minutes. Level 3 is 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And then 4 and above are 4 minutes.
Wow.
So it's the length of the performance that you're doing. And the higher in level, the longer the performance, because
they're able to do more.
You should be a higher leveled, skilled person.
Skill level.
Yeah.
And then I'm, of course, curious about the comedy on a pole. What in the world does that look like? What is it?
Well, comedy, to my understanding, is doing something or saying something with the intent of making the person you're talking to laugh. That's my understanding of comedy anyway.
That is the job of a comic, is to make people laugh. Agree.
So pole comedy is just doing pole things that make you laugh.
Okay.
So, for example, there have been several routines where the pole dancer wears one of those inflatable Tyrannosaurus Rex costumes.
Yeah.
That's really funny because you got the short arms and and the short legs, and so it's just humorous watching someone pole dance in a dinosaur costume.
Got it.
And then there was one routine where she was her comedy or her making fun of was drunk people.
Okay.
And so she did her routine as if she was drunk. She was not, clarification.
Okay.
But for example, she started with 2 shoes on. One shoe came off within the first 30 seconds. The next hour, or not hour, excuse me, minute, the next minute or so, she did with 1 shoe on. And then she eventually took the other shoe off.
Okay.
There was a point in it where she obviously was needing to relieve her bladder. And she obviously she did not do that on stage, but she made it appear that she needed to relieve that bladder.
Yeah.
So it's just...
It's a lot. It's physical comedy.
Yes,
that makes a lot of sense to me. Okay.
Yeah, physical comedy. That's what it is.
Yeah. Very interesting. We might have to talk about that later.
Absolutely.
Very interesting. I want to ask you a few more questions here for sure. You're building a community right here, which is a crucial aspect of Pink Ambition. Can you share some heartwarming stories or testimonials that highlight the impact your studio has had on individuals?
Absolutely. So we, number one, are a family. That's who we are. I call my students my pole babies, and they call me mama, literally. And we take care of each other. That's what we do, because we care about each other. So one example, I have a student who was in a bad relationship, very toxic relationship, which was not assault, abuse. It was a very abusive relationship, and that person started coming to pole, and I could see throughout. It took some time, but throughout the months and the years, they started to recognize that what was going on in their relationship was not ideal for them. So for someone that is so used to abuse, they assume that they deserve it. They assume that it's, oh, I must have done something to make them do that. Well, pole makes you realize, no, I didn't. I didn't do anything, and they're being mean to me. So that's not right. So it starts that whole, well, maybe I should look at this whole relationship if I'm getting negative aspects out of it rather than positive. And so, long story short, that girl has since been divorced, and we definitely had a divorce party for her when that happened, because it was, for her, that was what needed to happen. And so I think having the community to remind you that you're worth standing up for is crucial. And they're just, they are my babies. Like I get numerous Mother's Day cards via text. But
the modern way.
I am not you're right. I am not a mother of humans. So I don't, but I get Mother's Day greetings every year because that's how they see me. There's some students that just call me mama, and they may not have been here for 3 years, but if I see them in the street, they're like, oh, Mama, how are you? And it's a family, and it's important to me to be that family because supporting each other is the most important thing you can do in life, in my opinion. Just support each other, even if you don't agree with them.
Yeah. And today's society, I would love for us to get back to realizing that we do not have to agree on everything about anything to still connect and love one another and support one another.
Exactly.
It's okay to agree to disagree. It really is okay. And we can learn from each other. And everybody comes to what they think about the world around them from a myriad of their own personal experiences and things that they've been exposed to, and both positive and negative throughout their lifetime.
Right.
So when you're meeting somebody, you're meeting them in a precise moment of their life, which comes from a lot of preceding experiences in that exact moment.
Right.
And you do not know what happened to them that day. And something could have gone horribly wrong.
Right.
And they could be reacting in the moment you interact with them. And it could have absolutely nothing to do with you because of that.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think all of us just raising our awareness about how true that is for us, it bleeds into increasing compassion for others.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's beautiful that you do that. You also have 7 other instructors besides yourself. You have a little army of pole fitness instructors. What can you tell us about this little army of pole fitness instructors, and how did you find them?
Well, they are all very unique and very diverse. They all have regular jobs, so pole is like their second job. But most of them are they're just so smart.
Yeah.
So smart. I have a physical therapist. I have a nurse who used to run the OR, and now she teaches the other nurses how to do the OR. And I've got one that is a sex ed teacher in middle and high schools. One is a high school chemistry teacher. Another is, so basically all of the jobs that we have are most of them are in the healthcare field or teaching.
Interesting. Cool.
Yeah. And I got them from my students. I always pull my instructors from my students. And that's important to me, partially because going back to that community that I want to have and to promote, you live by example. So I want people that I know are going to emulate that, and people that are going to expand on that and put that out. And if you've been coming to the studio and you've experienced change in your own life and you've seen how pole can affect you, you're a lot more likely to be successful in sharing that and teaching it to others. So it's important to me that my instructors care about their students and care about the studio and want the best for them. And so I watch, sometimes I'll usually it happens in a flash, like it'll just be a regular class or an event or something, and I'll see a student do something and I'll be like, that'd be a good teacher. And then I kind of let it sit for a little bit and resonate, and then eventually I go up and I'm like, hey, so have you ever considered teaching? And so then we have a talk about that, and then I train them myself. And I train them myself because I want everything to be consistent across the board with all of my instructors. So if you learn the chair spin from one, you're going to get the same chair spin from another. So I train my own instructors, and then they do have the option to get certified if they would like to get certified. We recently got all of our instructors certified through Expert, which is a well-known and accepted certification program. But I also don't feel that is necessarily needed or necessary. And that's because pole is such a baby sport that there's no universal anything. So there aren't universal names. Something that I call the attitude, another studio in Northern Virginia that I am aware of calls it the sun wheel.
And this is a move.
This is a move, yes.
Okay. Kind of like the chair spin is a move.
Yes, yes, excuse
right.
me. I'm just...
Yes, people get in their lingo, but I'm picking up what
All
you're
right.
laying down. I bet the laughers are too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
That's actually interesting to note too, that it segued to sharing that there isn't really a universal language yet for pole fitness because it's relatively new
It's very new.
in the fitness industry. Who started pole fitness? Do you happen to know?
I know the first pole studio in the U.S. was S Factor. And Sheila, I can't remember her last name, but her first name is Sheila, is the one that opened that studio and ran it. If you want to see a documentary on that particular studio, there is one on Netflix.
Oh,
that is
really?
out there.
Okay.
I personally want to point out that my opinion is that this documentary is on that studio, not on pole,
Okay. All right.
because it was advertised as a documentary on pole, and it is absolutely not what every studio is. So, I just want to put that out in case you
Okay.
decide to watch that movie.
Well, let's help educate people on that for a moment, too.
Okay.
So how is it different than other studios that you will see? So when someone's watching it, they can be mindful, hey, someone in our own community in the Valley has a different perspective based on her own experience of what the industry is like. So they can be mindful. Just if
Right.
you can share a little bit about how the differences you saw
Sure.
from your own experience.
So, like I was saying earlier about healing and the fact that you don't force it, it just happens.
That's true. I mean,
This-
you got to be intentional, but yes.
Well, yes.
Yes.
The studio that is the center of attention in that particular documentary does force it.
Okay.
And that to me is not our place because we are not licensed therapists.
I see.
For the most part, I'm not saying there's no licensed therapist out there that teaches pole, but
Right.
for the most part, most pole teachers are not licensed therapists. And so this video follows a program, I think it was like a 6-week or something program, and they started out sitting in a circle talking about their traumas and being asked to share their trauma with the group. And in my opinion, that in itself is traumatic.
It can be. Absolutely.
If you're not ready. If you're
not
ready, that's great.
Yeah, agree.
But the person that's facilitating the activity needs to recognize that and not force it, in my opinion. So I personally did not like how that studio focused a lot on the healing aspects, which again, I agree happen. But they forced the women in this documentary to confront their traumas. And again, if you're in therapy and you're with your therapist, please do that. You need to. But a room full of strangers in a pole studio
In front of cameras.
in front of cameras, right,
Yeah.
is not the place to do it. So to me, that documentary it was too forceful, and it concerned me as a business owner, because I felt that people were either going to watch this movie and assume that that's how pole was. And so because of that, they would not come to Pink Ambition because they didn't like that, or they think all pole is like that, and they come to Pink Ambition expecting to sit in a circle and talk about their trauma, and then we don't do that.
Right. I see what you're saying.
So for my relation to that documentary, I don't think that it was helpful
for the industry at large.
Yes.
And for all we know, the individuals part of this documentary may have agreed to share their stories, for all we know, and signed off on that. I have no idea of knowing that. I would imagine that would be something that they put in writing.
I would imagine as well.
But I also see from your perspective as a business owner running a pole fitness studio, where your concern lies in terms of what people may walk away with in terms of their perceptions of what pole fitness is.
Exactly.
Interesting. That can increase to the misconceptions that people can have.
100%.
I see. Well, I'm glad we clarified that for people that are running pole fitness studios, that there are different philosophies out there on the approach. So if you are interested in pole fitness, then you're encouraged to ask some questions about what their philosophy is and how they run their classes, especially if you are concerned, you want to try, but you're a little bit timid, and ask questions to find out if it's going to meet your needs or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's worthy for sure. And you have various classes and workshops available. Can you share with us some of your offerings and how they cater to the different skill levels and personal aspirations that people have?
Sure. So we have our most popular class is called Lights Down, Heat Up.
Lights down, heat up.
Yep.
I like the name. Anyway, continue.
It's focused on sensual movement. So it's sometimes using the pole, sometimes a chair, sometimes the wall, sometimes nothing, just you and your body. And it's typically a minute and a half or 2 minutes of choreography that you will learn. And I'm not 100% sure why it's our most popular class, but I think it's because
wives out there trying to heat it up,
right? I think it's because it makes them step outside their comfort zone. Most people are not comfortable being sensual in public. And I don't mean actually partaking in sexual activities in public. I mean, like, for example, one of my many mottos in life, and this one is more on the exotic side of my life, is when in doubt, touch yourself.
Okay, what does that mean for those people and laughers out there whose minds may have gone somewhere with that? If you could clarify that for us, that would be delightful.
Sure.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is that with exotic especially, or actually with any dance, where your hands go, the audience's eyes follow.
Oh, okay.
So if you don't know what to do, and if you're doing sensual movement, just touch yourself. So what I mean by that is let your hand rub from your toes all the way up to your thigh and enjoy that movement that emulates sensual aspects of your body. So there is always a time and place for these types of movements. I don't necessarily recommend at the club, but should you be in an appropriate situation, it's learning how to let your hands graze over the intimate parts of your body that society tells you is inappropriate to touch. And this type of movement tells you it's okay. Because it is okay. It's perfectly fine. It's your body. You can do whatever you want with it. But because society has made sexual anything something that's positive in one situation but negative in others, it often takes away your permission to act or move in that way. So, for example, I was sexually assaulted when I was 18.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. It is extremely hard to be okay with anything sensual or sexual after being assaulted, because the only thing you can think of is what you had to do that was not your choice, and therefore anything being asked to do that again, whether it's consensual or not, is terrifying. Even asking yourself to do it by yourself is terrifying. So having an environment where we say, hey, this is a safe space, it doesn't mean anything. We're just exploring our emotions and our comfort level with ourselves. This is a space that it's okay to grab your boob and enjoy it. It's okay. And to me, especially, and others that have been assaulted or abused sexually, it almost gives you permission to be human again. Because once you get that, at least in my experience, once you have that assault, it changes the way you look at yourself. It changes the way you allow yourself to treat yourself. And so our intent for sensual movement classes is, yes, to have fun and to enjoy a different style of dance. But in my personal mission is to help those that have been negatively affected by the same movements, the same motions, to make them understand that it's okay, and that if they have urges or what's the word I'm looking for? I guess we'll just go with urges. If they have something that is making them want to go in that direction, it's okay. For me, it was not. And to be given that permission and to be given a space where I know that nobody cares. Like there was no one in. Now I'm kind of going into my personal story. Sorry, I'm getting involved in some Karen history. So my personal experience was I felt okay exploring that emotion, that feeling, and that physical touch in the studio because the intent was not to entice someone sexually. The intent was to enjoy yourself. And so I had no fear that I would be violated in that space.
I see.
So it allowed me to explore that. And I am not saying by any means that I am like 100% mentally great on all of the sexual and sensual aspects of life. When you have experiences such as mine, it's very hard to get back to that point. But pole has helped me do that. And I just think it's so important for people that have experienced trauma in that manner to reclaim their sexuality, because that's essentially what it is. When someone assaults you sexually, they are now stealing your sensuality. They didn't just steal it for that 5 minutes. They stole it. In your brain, it's gone. So these classes, this way of movement reminds you that it's okay and you can get that back. Just because they took it that one time doesn't mean you can't get it back.
That's right. And then you have the power versus
Right.
they have the power over you.
Exactly.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've publicly shared this on the podcast, but I am also a survivor of sexual abduction, actually,
Oh, my
/ assault.
goodness.
So,
I'm so sorry.
yeah.
But I'm glad that you're here today.
Yeah, I am here today, and I'm glad you're here today, too.
Thank you.
We survived that.
We did.
So just to share that we're survivors, but how I also connect with what you're saying in terms of what you lose when that happens. And the statistics are really awful in terms of how many women have had this experience in
Yes.
one form or another, or several, unfortunately. And we're in a time where that's way more prevalent than it should be.
Right.
You know, and that's exhibited in movies, even with children now, with the Sound of Freedom movie. That's about, child abduction for human sex trafficking.
Oh, my.
Which is even more difficult.
Yes.
Than it already is. So it is a very real thing that people are impacted by choices that other people make. The good news is, yes, we were a victim in that situation, but we do not have to remain in victim mode.
Exactly.
And we can empower ourselves and reconnect with ourselves and claim that back, like you said. So that's a deeper reason behind the impetus of what you're doing with the studio, is to empower women to reconnect with themselves, if I'm hearing you correctly.
Absolutely.
Versus getting them ready for the strip bar.
Which, and if that's their goal,
that's their goal. If that's their goal,
I support you, whatever your goal is. I will help you get there.
And this is a good segue into this next question. So let's say someone who's thinking about taking a class but unsure about it and may not be comfortable wearing the outfits they see your instructors wear on your website. And they're beautiful, but they might just be like, that's a lot less clothing than I'd want to wear to a class. And honestly, people that have survived sexual assault tend to be more modified in their clothing, I've noticed.
Absolutely.
So what would you tell them, and what advice would you give?
I would tell them to just give it a try. When I'm talking to someone trying to understand why they say they want to come but haven't come, many times it's, my friends won't go with me. And my response to that every single time is, that's okay. We have friends there. So you don't need to come with one, because we're here and we're going to be your friend by the time you leave.
Yeah.
And so I encourage people just to take that step and to try it.
Yeah.
And I'm also a very logical person. So in my brain, if you can make it logical, then there's no argument. So in reality, let's say you're interested in trying a pole class, but you're not sure if you're going to like it. You sign up for the class. You take the class. You hate it. The only thing that happened to you was you had 1 hour of uncomfortable feelings. That's it. So what are you lose? Like, there's nothing to lose to just trying it. And some people, it's not their thing, and that's okay. I recognize that. My husband will never be a pole dancer, and
Probably appreciates you are very much, but yes.
yes, but he will not get on the pole. So, and I understand that. But you've got to try.
Yeah.
So I encourage people just to remind them that we're a family and that we don't judge and that we can't wait for them to come try. And I tell them the hardest part is walking in that door.
And
And
they
it
can,
is.
and they can walk in their gym clothes. That would be
yes,
fine.
yes. As far as clothes,
yeah.
So the higher in advancement for moves, you need more skin exposed because skin is what is holding onto the pole.
Well, that explains so much. It makes perfect sense now that you've said it. But
So
when you're first looking at pole fitness and watching what people are wearing, you're asking yourself, what's going on here?
and it's very intimidating.
Yes, correct.
So what I say you need for our pole one for beginner, you just need to have the skin above your knees exposed
Okay.
and your bicep. So you can wear
Tank
a tank top,
tops.
a short sleeve shirt that you can roll up the
Right.
sleeve,
Right.
wear some bicycle shorts that go almost all the way to the knees. Some people go for the swimsuit version, which is an awesome way to look at it if you're uncomfortable being in smaller clothes, but you're comfortable in a bathing suit because society has told you that that's okay. Then that might make you feel more comfortable being here
Yeah.
if you're in like a bathing suit versus skimpy clothes, as some would put it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the lack of clothing is more out of a physical necessity than anything else.
I got it. That just clicked with me with the skin holding onto the pole. Now I get what you all are doing. It makes much better sense now. Okay. Now, entrepreneurship. I got one last question before we wrap it up here in terms of how people can get in touch with you. You are a pole dancer, instructor, but also an entrepreneur, and that comes with its own set of challenges. What are some of the hurdles you faced while establishing and growing Pink Ambition Pole Fitness?
Well, there have been a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, finding a space that would rent to us was a
Okay.
challenge in itself because it's pole dance, and this is a relatively conservative area. So trying to find a location, first of all, was a big challenge. And then once I found the location, getting everything set up, it's just there's just a lot to opening a business. So in the initial aspects, that whole thing was hard. And my journey is a little bit different because I opened my business not because I was like, I want to be a business owner. I opened it because I wanted to do what the business would allow me to do. So my mindset was more of a hobby instead of business. And that's how I treated it for the first several years. It wasn't until maybe 3 or 4 years ago that I recognized that and said, okay, well, I can either do this hobby and work my butt off and never have time to do anything because I'm working a full-time job plus running a business that can't support me, or I can get serious about this business owner thing and I can grow my business to where it can support me and I'll be able to let go of that day job. And so I started working with several organizations that have been extremely helpful in helping me understand business and getting to make business decisions. So the organizations, the Small Business Development Center is amazing, and the Shenandoah Community Capital Fund, SCCF. They have been extremely helpful, as well as I am in the B Cubed program here in the Valley, which is stands for Black and Brown owned businesses.
Oh, that's great.
And so that's an organization that helps those businesses who are often marginalized succeed, because it's harder to succeed if you are a Black woman than if you are a white man. Mm-hmm. That's just the truth. So these organizations have helped me by educating me. I've done many different trainings with them and helping me get hooked up with the right type of expert to fix whatever problem I was having. And then also, Harrisonburg Downtown Renaissance. They are amazing. I love them. So they've been very helpful as well. And so I've honestly gone on 2 journeys. I have my pole journey, and then I have my entrepreneurial journey. And that entrepreneurial journey didn't actually start until I was about 4 years into my business, which is weird, but that's how it was.
Yeah.
And that's
part of your story.
That's my story. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to come to the realization that I was an entrepreneur. I didn't see myself as an entrepreneur at all.
Saw yourself as an instructor.
Yeah. And I was just doing the business part so that I could instruct.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now I'm doing the business part as a business owner who is focused on growing, and I see how beneficial our classes are and our community is, and it encourages me to keep bringing that to the world. I can't, so many times students have just thanked me for being here. And I've had a lot of people, a lot of people tell me that the only reason they stayed in Harrisonburg was because of Pink Ambition.
Oh, wow.
And that, to me, is monumental.
Yeah.
It makes me a little sad that their experience in Harrisonburg was not one of great love and joy, which I experienced because I'm a townie and therefore I love Harrisonburg. But it makes me feel good that I created a space that they were not willing to give up, and they were willing to experience
connection.
Yeah. My favorite quote that a student told me recently is, she looked at me and she goes, "Karen, thank you for providing a space to be comfortable being uncomfortable."
Yeah,
And I
that's
was
so
like,
good.
that's awesome. I do that? She was like, yeah. It's like, oh, well, that's pretty cool.
The healing moments actually happen when we sit in the uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Which is really amazing. How full circle in our whole conversation.
Absolutely. I love a full circle. If you watch my routines, I start and try to end at the same position.
I love it. Well, as we wrap up here, how can the Laughers stay updated with your latest Pink Ambition Pole Fitness happenings on social media or otherwise?
We are on social media as Pink Ambition Fitness. So you can find us on Instagram or Facebook. And then we also have a website, which is www.pinkambitionsfitness.com. And you can find links to all of our events. One thing I did not mention throughout this whole conversation was that we have started putting on shows.
Oh, great.
And so that's a big thing. If you are interested in attending a show, which the next one is October 28th at Clementine, then you can go to our website, and under events, you'll see the information for that. You can also find the links to pretty much anything that you need related to the studio in our link tree on Instagram. So if you go to our bio and click that link, it'll bring up a whole bunch of links that will lead you where you need to go.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And Laughers will be sure to put all that information for you in the show notes as well. Plus that promo code LAUGH15 so you can buy that delicious pre-popsterous popcorn today. That it will be a link for you there in the show notes also. And thank you for coming on the show, Karen. This has been super fun chatting up about all things Pink Ambition Pole Fitness with you. I learned so much. So thanks again for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I enjoy the opportunity to educate people on what I do and what I offer.
Yes, and we are glad that you did. Laughers, Pink Ambition Pole Fitness is a welcoming, safe space to get fit and explore the mind-body connection through pole fitness and dance. As the only studio offering pole fitness classes in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and the surrounding area, they are happy to welcome all individuals age 18 and above. To get more information on their classes, membership packages, workshops, private bookings, events, shows, or contact them with your questions, please visit www.pinkambitionsfitness.com. That's pinkambitionsfitness.com. Also, be sure to get your pre-popsterous today using promo code LAUGH15 so you can munch on it when you join me on next week's episode. And lastly, and most importantly, thanks for tuning in, Laughers. Out of all the podcasts out there, you picked us, and we think that's pretty darn special, just like you. Until next time, keep smiling. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by X2 Comedy. We'll be dropping a new podcast every Wednesday, so check back for another uplifting episode. Come to an X2 Comedy show or let us bring one to you. To find out more, head to x2comedy.com. Be sure to share this podcast with a friend, and until next time, cheers.